Welcome to the World United. Welcome to the World United.
Hello, my name is Madison Cheshire, and I'm a home birth midwife and bodywork artist based out of Boulder, Colorado, United States. It's really my passion to support families through the initiatory experiences of pregnancy, childbirth, and the postpartum time, and also to guide folks to resources for reclaiming their births in empowered and triumphant ways. I really hope that this talk today can inspire everyone to see the process of pregnancy and childbirth and the postpartum as an opportunity to be cherished and to explore how reclaiming our births, our bodies, and our babies is a spiritual movement that fits into the larger tapestry of spiritual awakening that's happening on our planet today. So before we delve in, I just want to mention that you will notice I refer to the birthing parent, the birthing person, and the pronouns them, their, and theirs, rather than always using mother, she, and hers in this talk. And that's to acknowledge that not all people who carry wombs or give birth self-identify as women. So I'm intentionally using inclusive language here. So I'd like to begin by inviting you all through a visualization. This guided visualization will take you through the experience of being born peacefully and triumphantly, from the perspective of yourself inside of your mother's womb. In my experience, this process has the potential to heal some of our deep birth trauma. So if it feels safe and appropriate where you are in this moment, I invite you to close your eyes and really start to sink in. We'll start by taking a deep breath together. Now imagine yourself in a dark, warm, comforting, and tight space. You hear muffled sounds, and the soothing rhythmic heartbeat of your mother is like a lifeline for you. Nourishing liquid surrounds you. You're connected to a vast ocean of light that you feel shimmering at the periphery of your being, surrounding you and infusing you in love, light, and purpose. You came here for a reason, and you know it. You share a psychic connection to your birthing parents' love, care, and concern for your well-being. You feel welcome and wanted, protected and considered. You float in timelessness, in complete presence. You begin to feel a sensation that envelops your entire body. You're being squeezed rhythmically by the body of your birthing parent. It's like a hug, and you can feel that something big is coming. You can feel your mother's excitement, the other hearts beating around her as she surrenders and sings her birth song to you and to the light from which you come. The rhythmic pressure becomes stronger and more intense. Your head and body tuck into position, and you feel through the crown of your head an opening, layer by layer, like the petals of a flower. Your crown chakra begins to sense light and air for the first time. Now your eyes and nose and chin can feel the wide open, bright, loud, cool atmosphere of our planet. As you feel your body rotate and your shoulders, belly, arms, and legs are released into the spacious world, you recognize the feeling of being held and caught by the presence, the energy, and the physical hands of the spirit realm from which you come, as well as from the earthly physical realm that you're now anchoring into. You feel your body placed lightly on top of your birthing parent's soft, warm, electromagnetic belly. And you take your first breath in, welcoming the newfound nourishment air offers you. You hear your parents' voices and you feel the presence of a vast tunnel of beings witnessing and watching over you, physical and spiritual. You acknowledge and thank them, building a connection that will guide you through your new life here on earth. You feel welcome and safe, guided and supported, vulnerable and powerful. And now, your earth adventure begins. So I invite you now back into the present space that you're in, back into your body, rooted into the ground beneath you. And I hope this has been a positive healing exploration for everyone of your own birth. You can guide yourself through this exercise as well, as many times as feels good. So here we are, and all of us were born, though very few of us remember. The beginning of our lives is shrouded in mystery. Birth is an experience that our evolutionary, limbic, mammal bodies never forget. How we're born deeply matters. How we're born intimately intersects with how we live. How we're born is the soil from which our particular tree of life sprouts and grows. The significance of this experience to how the rest of our life unfolds cannot be overemphasized. It's often said that life and death are opposites. In contrast to that, I've seen that birth and death are parallel points strung between the continuum of incarnated life. Each passageway and experience is shaped to prepare us for the next phase. And the process of birth itself is a passageway. What we call labor is a liminal experience of initiation that prepares us for transformation into a new form. Together, parent and baby diverge from one into two, and from one being into one family. A momentous and miraculous shift such as this deserves deep care and deep awareness. As in any initiation, the outcome is not assured. Part of what makes something initiatory is that you dance with risk and confront your fear. You cross through the veils of the spirit realms to guide a new soul of a human being to this planet. You usher them across the thresholds of your own body, mind, and spirit. This is deeply sacred work. The experience of birth and the months that follow have the power to influence the rest of a parent and a child's lives significantly. Factors such as whether the mother feels safe and respected, whether they feel empowered, whether the primal mammalian process is allowed to proceed undisturbed, and whether she's surrounded with people who hold space for her birth to unfold or not, will determine the well-being of the family unit for the rest of their lives. This is not being overemphasized. In this way, the birth and postpartum period is a pivot point for people in which either wellness or disease can be amplified. How we experience our pregnancy, birth, and postpartum time holds exponential potential to amplify whichever feelings are the most prominent well into the future. The experience of trauma during this time can require a lifetime of untangling and processing to heal, while the experience of empowerment can similarly create a well of strength and nourishment for a family to draw from. There's a lot of fear on earth about the act of giving birth today. There's also a lot of misunderstanding. For a few generations now, we've started to see birth as a medical event, while in contrast, for thousands of generations, our ancestors have held birth as a community event. Imagine with me an ancient scene in which the community gathers loosely around the birthing person when it's time for the baby to come. They don't crowd her, lovingly respecting her space, not even looking directly at her. Ceremony proceeds. The community hums, rocks, dances, and prays. They sing and croon to the mother and the new being when the spirit moves through them. They believe in her and affirm her power and sovereignty. She rises to the intensity with strength and surrender, trusting the process even as it moves her to dramatic sensation. The community empathizes with her struggle to bring life forth. No one breaks ceremony, and no one disturbs her rhythm with conversation, fear, or intrusion. This is a sacred space, and the community holds that. I've seen many times in the vision realms during birth that the birthing person builds an energetic portal, the spirit bridge from the earth clear into the sky. I've seen this with my mind's eye, this crystalline structure of angelic rainbow light. It develops in a distinct pattern for each individual, as unique as a fingerprint. Sometimes I've seen them to resemble the grandeur of a cathedral, the spiral tunnel of a tornado, the pillars of an ancient carved stone temple, or an intricate and ornate towering ice sculpture. Through this portal, the mother crosses and receives the soul of their baby. Meanwhile, the fire is tended throughout the night. The mother drifts through waves of altered consciousness, delving to the depths of her inner landscapes and following the wisdom and design of her body, swaying and moaning. Her body opens and her baby descends into and through the birth canal. When the baby's head emerges, the birthing person or their partner reach down to catch the baby in an ancient ritual, symbolizing the connection between parents and child. This solidifies that this new being is welcome and that they belong. Catching one's own baby seals the bond between the parents and the child, and the community witnessing this new being, the struggle and the triumph. They all celebrate together. The blueprint of sacred and primal birth is within each of us. Its seed is alive and well. As a midwife, I witness humanity in this process of reviving the fierce spirit of sovereign birth. We are living through a time of the revival of birth as an initiation, as a transformation, and as a sacred opportunity. On the vast evolutionary time scale, we as humanity have stepped away from empowered and autonomous birth for just a moment to explore a less intrinsic and less trusting version or even perversion of the birth experience. We've momentarily forgotten just how powerful and capable we are. We've turned our power over to outside institutions, mistakenly trusting them more than we trust ourselves and life itself. We've become myopic, forgetting that our bodies are a complex ecosystem. All things interact with and affect all other things. This great forgetting causes us so much suffering and fear. It allows egregious violations to occur every day that siphon the power and gift of sacred birth away from parents, babies, and the community. But no one can reclaim sacred birth but us. It's time now for us to remember ourselves and our mission here. We're so blessed in this modern age to be witnessing a revolution around reclaiming sovereign birth. In so many ways, life in the modern day looks different from the ways of the ancient ancestral past. I envision that someday the whole community begins to show up again and to know birth as a natural part of life, gaining experience and collecting knowledge and skills to help us all trust birth, to recognize what's normal and what needs intervention, and to support our beloveds through the challenges and intensity that this labor of love brings. One thing that's remained consistent is that the majority of moms and babies require no heroic intervention to give birth safely. And it's very possible to give birth with sovereignty while still having access to medical intervention when necessary. Part of pregnancy and birth in our modern day includes navigating a plethora of options that may never have existed before. In this journey, there's no right or wrong, no good or bad. It's simply about reclaiming choice, autonomy, sovereignty, and power. If we don't know what our choices are, we don't have choices. In modern maternity care, these choices are often not presented to parents as choices at all, but as requirements for safe birth. Part of my offering to families is to remind them that every aspect of their pregnancy, birth, and postpartum is truly theirs to choose. Remembering that we have autonomy is the first step to feeling empowered. On a practical, earthly level, being educated is an essential piece of truly informed decision-making. For this reason, it behooves all of us, men, women, and non-binary folks alike, to have at least a basic understanding of the range of these options before we ever get pregnant. Reviving a common basic fluency in maternity will benefit our communities deeply. There's both deeply spiritual and deeply practical wisdom in reclaiming our births. This means understanding pregnancy from the inside and the outside. It also means most of us will need to assert our right to choose and to take the reins of our own experience. No one else can do this for us. No one else has the investment in the well-being of our family that we do. And no one outside of ourselves knows better for us than we do. A professional can serve as a guide for us on our journey, but their true role ends there. It's powerful to see the growing number of people intentionally stepping into the role of providing their own care. Rather than choosing any professional, they're giving birth without the direction or influence of anyone outside of their intimate community. Today, this is called free birth, while our ancestors of the distant past most likely just called it birth. This is one of the many spiritual movements arising at this time of the Great Turning. There's a reason that empowered birth is a rising movement alongside all other spiritual movements right now. Our world is beginning to reawaken to our sacred feminine power. This power is both gentle and fierce, nurturing and self-protective. The divine feminine is a complete being unto herself. She holds the answers within her. She courts her own connection to the divine. She engages intuition as well as logic to choose her path. She surrenders to transformation in pregnancy and birth, trusting her body and her baby. She looks to no outside authority. This is a call to revive our intuitive feminine knowing and to apply it to the most important parts of our lives. To navigate our lives with the truth and integrity of our whole selves. What will our births, families, and world be like when we truly integrate the wisdom of sacred and sovereign birth? Our generations have the opportunity to break the cycles of traumatic, interventive, fearful, masculine-dominated birth, and instead actively engage our birth experiences to amplify our strength, power, and ability to embody the divine. As we do, we see the awakening of humanity. I recognize that this is a huge leap from the experiences that many of us are having with birth, and also that birth occurs throughout the world in a wide variety of ways, of which I have only humble knowledge. It does hearten me to acknowledge that huge leaps, even revolutions, just as unique and meaningful, have taken root in the United States and around the world in the past century. And that how we birth is just one of many mass spiritual awakenings that are transforming society at the highest levels of power and policy. We've deepened our cultural consciousness in so many ways. How we view and treat children, for example. How we address addiction, or sexual and gender expansiveness and freedom. Environmental stewardship, racial justice and indigenous rights, feminism, and education, to name a few. These movements are all occurring simultaneously at grassroots levels, fueled by genuine passion and vision for the free and just world we all know is possible. I don't mean to ignore the part of the human psyche that's afraid of this growth, though, because the shadows of humanity are very real forces, and they've succeeded in arresting much of our collective growth for centuries. We have a lot of collective trauma to process and transmute around many aspects of being human, including birth. But no one can hold back an ocean forever. All we need is critical mass around any given awakening for spontaneous collective transformation to occur. We have both the ability and the responsibility to reclaim our births, our children, and our lives now. There's an intrinsic connection between how we choose to give birth and how we choose to parent. Sacred autonomous birth leads to empowered youth with the capacity for compassion and self-direction. Youth whose trust in the world began when they experienced the world as a safe and loving space at birth. We now have the potential to break generations of trauma in our lineages, and the movement is well underway. Thank you for your participation. It's been an honor to be here with you. So many blessings.